having been there, having surfed there for like 4 decades or whatever it's been, it's just, it sort of tugs at something deep inside of God, I want to be out there and I want to take advantage of this. So I understand. And there have been instances where folks have paddled out and they've gotten busted. Or now, honestly, there's been so much of it that it was almost like they were laying down the law in the beginning, and there was the story of the $1,000 fine that the guy at Manhattan Beach got. There was the stand-up paddle guy at First Point Malibu who got arrested, and it was almost like they were making a show of it, or they were kind of just setting an example. Now, from what I know, they've loosened it quite a lot, and it's more just get the hell out of here as quickly as possible, and don't talk back. And if you sort of obediently run to your car, they're not going to make an example of you the way they were before.
Yeah, I wonder, like, how much is it that the government has to send a strong message for our own good in some ways? If like they take it laxed and it's not serious, then people may not take it so seriously. And that might be for our own good, but I imagine it must be a real difficult tension to balance, because you want to enforce and you want people to take it serious because you don't want to waste resources and all these other things. But obviously, like, you could go too far too.
Absolutely. And I can imagine in some of these civic buildings, like our mayor, Eric Garcetti, who, in fact, like, I've seen him at parties. I've been on a dance floor with our mayor in Los Angeles, and he seems like a super cool guy. But I imagine there's a kind of there are conversations going on there where it is like surfing is this kind of big thing in LA or in Southern California, and there's this giant resource that is the coastline, and to sort of it's tricky. It's yeah.
Do you think the local government's done fairly well in this incident so far?
From what I can tell, and this is just watching the news every night, but I also have to say that in my sort of circle or sphere, they're not. I know of friends. I don't know if anyone personally there. I've been somehow, and I feel grateful for this, but I've been somehow removed or preserved from having it be really, really close up. And from what I know, just watching the news and reading the paper, California and LA in particular has done really, really well.
Yeah. So, like, I see a lot of people upset at Gavin Newsom, but I'm also like, it's like a parent who has to be a dick sometimes with their kids, I feel like.
No, I think that's a good way of putting it, for sure. And I think he's done a fantastic job.
Yeah, it's been interesting, watching it and talking to people from around the country, and also watching like how some surfers react to it. Like in Florida, I thought it was really interesting. They did a petition and they tried to really work with the local government to allow them to surf and try to spread the education amongst the local community. So like, I'm really hopeful. I think that it's working, but like, that's, one way, I guess, like, but then you see where people get rebellious and they try to act out against the cops, and I don't know. It's been interesting to see the different communities kind of react to it differently.
No, absolutely. And the one unfortunate thing here was it was literally day 1 or day 2 of the ban. And this guy goes out at Manhattan Beach. And I sort of understand where he's coming from, but a lifeguard says you can't go out. And he basically just says, fuck you. I'm going to do whatever I want. And just, his attitude, which made it in the paper all over and all throughout the surf media, I think I understand that sense of surfing is our birthright, but I think that that didn't help. That was not like a great way to sort of, let's test the boundary, let's test like the edge of this thing, and that's where it starts with some arrogant guy,
How do you think the surf media has been covering it? I don't know if you follow it as much, but
I've been following some of it. I was following it more closely, and at this point, I think people are trying to be responsible. I know Surfline's idea is that stay at home and watch basically the cams and get your joy there. And then of course, like most platforms have sort of done a lot of replaying of old stories, WSL, great stuff from last year or the year before. And then a lot of the old surf films have come back. So honestly, it's sort of like normally we're getting new content in, right? Like there's normally this, like there's a circulation of great clips and great this and that, and the Wave of the Winters, or we're a little late for Wave of the Winters, but whatever stuff that would be going on. And of course the WSL events would be like filling the home pages. There's not so much of that. So I mean, and you can only, like, I guess the reporting on it is, it's hard. It was interesting and compelling because it was so novel a while ago, but now it just feels like it's to keep sort of saying beaches are closed. There's not a lot of new things to say, really.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, they're not, we don't hold them to the high expectations. We don't expect them to do much with it. So I think they've been covering it fairly decently for the most part. I think Beach Grit's been really interesting, and funny, but also I worry that some people may take the tongue in cheek a little too seriously at times and misread it,
No, I think you actually, you raise a really good question, because on the one hand, you could say that they haven't done a great job because I do a lot of surf writing in this world, but we haven't found, for instance, some ER worker who also is a surfer and get their take. But in many ways, I think most of us go to these places as a kind of escape anyway. So I can go to the New York Times, or I can turn on MSNBC or CNN and get the heavier stuff. And then when I'm done with that, after dinner or whatever, and I want to like click on Beach Grit or click on Surfline or whatever, I don't feel like I need some like deep human interest story of someone on the front lines fighting it who also happens to surf. Unless there's something really, like, unless there's something to be said there, or there's something that new to say. But otherwise, it's sort of like, let that be in the mainstream news and let surfing continue to be the escape, and give me whatever like old Jack McCoy film that we haven't seen for a while. Like bring me entertainment, bring me escape.
Oh no, this podcast is going downhill. Oh man. JV, I really appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you so much.
No, it's a pleasure, Tyler. Always good talking to you. And yeah, I'm curious to see how this all plays out.
Me too, man. I mean, I think I'm hopeful. I think we can get through it. It's just, I think they just need to get the tests. That's the biggest thing. And, my concern is obviously this president. I'm sorry to certain listeners, but I'm like, I just can't, like, they're not delivering on the tests, and that's what we need.
Yeah.
Those are the things that are going to get us out of this. And Germany had a test. Trump tried to buy the company that was making the test, and they couldn't do that. And so then Trump and the company was like, hey, you can't buy the company, but we'll give you the designs for free, the patent. You can just go use it and make as many as many tests as you want. And they wanted to own it so they can sell it and make money on it.
Yeah.
It's like crazy.
Sounds familiar.
That was like in January, February.
Yep.
So anywho, but thank you, man. I really do appreciate it. It's good to talk to you. Good to see you.
Likewise, Tyler. Take good care, and we'll talk again.
You got it. Thanks, Jamie.
Okay. Bye-bye.
And that was Mr. Jamie Brisick. Love talking to that guy. So now we move on to Mr. Chaz Smith. I've been trying to get this guy on the show for a while. I was pretty excited when he answered a DM I sent him. And yeah, it's been, really cool. I've been obviously following his work for a while. I always have little mixed feelings. Like sometimes you read it and you're like, no, that's not right. But still, like, it's really fun and engaging. And I think he, really loves surfing and surf culture. And so it comes out. And it's definitely a really fun conversation that we have. And yeah, give it a listen, and then I will see you at the end of the show. Stoked you could be to come on, though. I'm really, really, really stoked to have you on. I mean, it's been trying for ages.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm so sorry dropping the ball on.
Not even, dude. Things. What are you talking about?
I'm
just
sure I
random
messages. So many stupid emails and all that. Yeah.
Don't worry. No.
Sorry.
No, please. By all means. I mean, shit. So you got to go and you got them on Dirty Water?
Yeah, Dirty Water. Dirty Water with Eric Logan and Pat O'Connell.
Let's promote this. So you have this show that you just started with Derek called Dirty Water.
Yeah, I mean, doing anything with Derek. The whole reason I love it, I'm just Paul Schaefer to his David Letterman, and just sitting though and looking at Derek's face because we do it on dumb Zoom or whatever, right? Where with David Lee Scales, the other podcast, The Grit. I love meeting with David in person, and we've been doing that forever, and it's great. But Derek lives in Australia, and so I don't get to see him much. So seeing his face on Zoom is enough to make the podcast the best thing ever for me.
He is a handsome man, too.
He's a handsome man, an older, handsome man.
Yeah, with style.
Completely.
Absolutely. So we're going to get into this coronavirus because this has been my spiel, I guess, for the last month because I'm in Brooklyn and I am in the thick of it. So,
are you scared?
I've to be honest, I was pretty good up until about a week ago. And then things have been, I've gone through more emotional kind of roller coasters in some ways.
Because of people you've known who have been affected, or?
It's been a mix of things, right? One is I did an episode last week where I interviewed two friends who are on the front lines in the ER. And that was pretty sobering. These are two dads. Their wives also work in the hospital too. They got kids, trying to balance that shit out and being overwhelmed. And he's like, my friend Brandon's like, dude, you don't even know. You don't know. There's so many symptoms. People getting rashes and have COVID. Some get respiratory. Some get fucking bowel issues, stomach issues. So he's like, we just don't know anything about this. He said, take everything you know about the flu, throw it out the window. It doesn't apply. He's like, I've had people who look totally normal, but their breathing level is at an 80, which is really ridiculous. That's normally something they put you on a ventilator on. So it was really weird stuff. So that stuff definitely scared me a little bit. Then last week, a coworker of mine was let go, and I'm starting to see the effects in the company I work for, and people, losing their jobs and those effects. So that kind of hit home, and that kind of set it off. I think those two things. And then now I go into public. I have anxiety going out anywhere where there's crowds of people. Freaks me out.
Because you think, I guess so. I guess that's the whole point of this thing, right? Is that nobody really knows what it does.
No. And it's I go out in public and it's more I feel partial guilt. I'm the person spreading it potentially and not doing it right. But then I also feel these motherfuckers are out without masks. What the fuck is wrong with these people? They're all clustered in, and you're this shit's never going to end.
But look at Sweden, though. What if we would have done it like Sweden, where you just let it all open? Yeah, and you get the herd immunity, and sure, there's whatever. So here, right? Hospitals are empty. They're furloughing hospital workers because nobody has it, and yet they're clamping down. And of course, we're California, which is different, but they're clamping down more and more. So starting Monday here, mandatory to wear masks outside, even though there's not one person in the hospital with it. Nobody has it. It feels like it's a New York again. You in Brooklyn. I can't say I feel your pain. I feel like Bill Clinton. I feel your pain.
Yeah, no, dude. You can have empathy, and that's totally understandable. But what I would say is, you don't have it. Clearly, it's working. the situation is working. I would say the face mask you should, especially if you are going into a store. It should be